Welcome to another episode of China Update, where I provide you with the most up-to-date political, economic, and geostrategic analysis on the world's number 2 economy. My name is Tony. Let's jump in. Okay, happy Friday everybody. I hope you've had a productive week and I wish you a restful weekend ahead. Of course, if you're in China, you'll probably be working tomorrow. In that case, add oil, and I hope you can enjoy your Sunday. It's a big episode today. I'm quite excited actually. There's a lot of very interesting developments to cover. So let's dive in. Yesterday we covered the French leg of Xi Jinping's Europe trip. Today we cover his time in Serbia and Hungary. We unpacked the background to this trip and Beijing's goals in yesterday's video. So if you're interested in that background, maybe check the first half of yesterday's video out. Today will be a continuation of that coverage. Xi's next stop after France was Serbia, where he arrived on the 7th of May. The trip coincided with the 25th anniversary of the bombing of the Chinese embassy in Belgrade by the United States/NATO. Interestingly though, Xi did not visit the memorial of the bombing as he did in 2016. Instead, he mentioned the event in an article published in his name in a Serbian newspaper, writing, quote, 25 years ago today, NATO frequently bombed the Chinese embassy in Yugoslavia, killing 3 Chinese journalists. This we should never forget. End quote. As one prominent UK diplomat expressed, quote, the CCP rarely misses an opportunity to remind the world of American imperialism and bullying. End quote. And the US outgoing special envoy for the Western Balkans expressed, quote, the visit was timed to increase tensions between Serbia and the rest of the Western community, and it's unhelpful. We, the United States, has said that the bombing of the Chinese embassy in 1999 was an accident. We've apologized. I believe we've actually even paid reparations to the families. But I do believe that the timing of the visit was unfortunate but deliberate. End quote. However, others point out that the fact that he didn't attend a memorial suggests that he is sensitive to the optics, as he tries to convince Europeans that Beijing doesn't back Moscow's war in Ukraine, a claim which has been met with much skepticism in Europe. Quote, Serbia has long been close to the PRC. It is part of the southern route into Eastern Europe with the Belgrade-Budapest Railway, built as part of the Belt and Road Initiative. Its closeness to Russia goes some way towards a quiet nod to the PRC's own support for Moscow. A nod so quiet will not be the order of the day when Vladimir Putin visits Beijing later this month. End quote. According to an official PRC Foreign Ministry readout, in his meeting with the Serbian president, Xi Jinping, quote, stressed that Serbia is China's first comprehensive strategic partner in Central and Eastern Europe. It is important for China and Serbia to jointly reject hegemonism and power politics and oppose bloc politics or bloc confrontation. After the talks, the two presidents signed the joint statement on deepening and elevating the comprehensive strategic partnership and building a China-Serbia community with a shared future in the new era. The two presidents also witnessed the exchange of multiple cooperation documents, including on Belt and Road cooperation, green development, digital economy, e-commerce, infrastructure, economic and technical cooperation, information and communication, agro-food, and the media. End quote. For his part, the Serbian president told media, quote, I told him that as the leader of a great power, he will be met with respect all over the world, but the reverence and love he encounters in our Serbia will not be found anywhere else. End quote. The visit is significant for the politics of the region too. Quote, this visit shows that Serbia has exchanged Russia for China when it comes to its main partner to bargain with the West. The full-scale invasion of Ukraine placed the Serbo-Russian relationship under close monitoring, so the government sees a benefit in playing the Chinese card more often now, since it's deemed to be less provocative. End quote. After Serbia, Xi arrived in his third and final country for this European tour. Quote, Hungary might unkindly be described as the PRC's Trojan horse inside the EU. It certainly offers more support to the PRC than other member states. It is keen to attract Chinese investment, particularly in the automotive industry, now developing into a sensitive area for the EU and the PRC. The visit is a reward for loyalty. End quote. In Hungary, Xi and Prime Minister Orban announced the establishment of a so-called all-weather comprehensive strategic partnership for the new era, which, according to UK-based The Financial Times, is a designation outranked only by Russia and China's Comprehensive Strategic Partnership of Cooperation for a New Era. Put another way, this is a big deal, making Hungary China's top partner in the EU. And Beijing knows exactly what this means for its Europe policy agenda. Yesterday, state-run Global Times wrote that, quote, Hungary's foreign minister believes Hungary can use its rotating presidency of the Council of the EU to influence the EU's policy toward China, end quote. Then today, Friday, Huawei and a Hungarian telecommunications giant, which Orban is grooming to become their national champion in the telecom sector, signed a joint statement to deepen cooperation and to advance digitalization in the country. Hungary has gone all in on economic links with China under the current leadership. BYD Co., the Chinese EV giant, picked Hungary as the site of its first European car factory. Hungary is also a hub for car battery producers, with China's contemporary Amperex Technology Co. Limited currently building a €7.3 billion plant in the country. This is a big deal for a country with an economy the size of Hungary's. Indeed, both Serbia and Hungary have enjoyed many carrots from China. Direct Chinese investment in the two countries exceeds $15 billion, with more coming. A sight Beijing wants all to see. Quote, the message to other countries in Eastern Europe is, look what opportunity you missed. What we see is actually the Chinese demonstrating that we are now rewarding our friends. Those who stay with us, those who work with us ultimately benefit. The Chinese are building a wonder child of Chinese investment to demonstrate the benefits of cooperation with China. End quote. Over the last year or so, we have seen increasing China skepticism across the EU. China knows this very well, and their priority has been to prevent Europe moving too close to the US in its alignment and employing a tactic of divide and conquer. Next up, the Chinese economy, and we discuss new developments in trade and finance. If you enjoyed today's episode of China Update, it's a huge help if you can hit that like button. Subscribing is also a big help. Sharing is a tremendous help as well. It's the only way in which this channel can grow on the platform. And Patreon and Buy Me a Coffee links are also in the description below for those who want to help keep the channel financially sustainable. This channel limits sponsored content to 1 to 2 per month so that I'm primarily supported by you guys, the subscribers, and I want to try and keep it that way. Thank you so much, everybody, for the ongoing support. Let's continue. Yesterday, Thursday, China's Customs Administration published new official trade data. Because these numbers are two ways, they are relatively reliable. According to the new figures, exports increased 1.5% in dollar terms from a year earlier, reversing a drop in March, while imports climbed 8.4%. That left a trade surplus of $72.4 billion for the month of April. In the first 4 months of the year, China's exports rose 4.9% year-on-year, while imports climbed 6.8%. Quote, we shouldn't, however, make too much of this apparent turnaround. That's because March 2023 exports were higher than in any other month that year except December. In other years, March is usually among the weakest export months of the year. Meanwhile, exports in April of 2023, while not as much of an exception as March, were also pretty high. The good news is that imports in April were up 8.4%. That's an improvement, but far from enough of an improvement as far as China's trading partners are concerned. Excluding 2023, the April surplus in 2024 is by far the largest April surplus in Chinese history and adds up to roughly 2.5% of China's GDP for the period. The same is true for 2024's January through April surplus, $256 billion, which, excluding 2023, is by far the largest in Chinese history and adds up to roughly 4.6% of China's GDP over the period, or 0.9% of the GDP of the rest of the world. End quote. The volume of exports of steel products rose 27% in the year through April, while prices continued to fall, and the value of these shipments were down 13%. Countries from Europe to emerging economies like Brazil and Turkey have started probes into claims of Chinese dumping of the metal. UK-based Financial Times reports that the value of China's imports of automatic data processing equipment, which includes computers and their components, surged 50% year-on-year in the first 4 months of 2024. Imports of computer chips and other high-tech products recorded double-digit gains from the same period last year. Lin Song, ING's chief China economist, expressed on the numbers, quote, the imports strength was heavily concentrated in a few categories. The main theme, in our view, is the goal to compete in the AI race. By comparison, many other import categories, including agricultural products, coal and cosmetics, remained heavily in contraction. End quote. Indeed, Bloomberg reports, citing the numbers, that imports from the Netherlands rose 32% last month from a year earlier to $1.4 billion. Quote, the breakdown of that trade won't be released until later in the month, but it's likely a substantial proportion of it is machinery from the Dutch company ASML Holdings NV, which is used to make semiconductors. End quote. And while we're on trade, this week it was learned that the United States overtook China as Germany's most important trading partner in the first quarter of this year, according to German statistics data. Germany's trade with the United States, exports and imports combined totaled 63 billion euros, $68 billion from July to March, while the figure for China was just under 60 billion euros. Meanwhile, today, Friday, the European Chamber of Commerce in China published its annual Business Confidence Survey, in which it finds that more European businesses are moving investments out of the Chinese mainland to markets such as Southeast Asia and Europe. The report showed that 13% of respondents have either already moved or made the decision to shift existing investments from the Chinese mainland to other markets. That's a 2 percentage point increase from last year. Around 8% said they were considering doing so. Speaking to media today, the EUCCC president expressed, quote, for European companies, they are not running for the exit, but China is definitely experiencing more competition in terms of its ability to attract European investment. That's probably the big change. End quote. According to the report, the top 3 concerns that have eroded European companies' confidence in doing business on the mainland are the headwinds facing both the domestic and global economies, as well as US-China tensions. Over a third of respondents also said that overcapacity was a concern. On these themes, too, this week Robin Brooks, Senior Fellow of US-based Brookings, published a piece pointing out that China's goods exports in 2023 were near record levels, yet accumulation of official foreign exchange reserves was essentially zero, and arguing that this combination is quite unusual. Ordinarily, strong exports imply a large current account surplus, which historically has meant rapid build-up of foreign exchange reserves. The piece examines China's balance of payments for clues and argues that conceptually there may be at least 3 drivers. Quote, first, China could be stockpiling dollar-invoiced commodities to reduce the current account surplus, thereby reducing upward pressure on reserves. Second, it is possible that what in the past counted as official intervention is now being channeled through state banks, i.e. is being classified as capital outflow rather than official intervention. Third, net foreign direct investment, FDI, may be shifting against China. Empirically, it is the third channel that is most important. Unfortunately, data transparency is poor, which means it is hard to disentangle if this shift is due to foreign businesses pulling back or China's outbound direct investment. Our reading of the data is that it is primarily the latter, consistent with China trying to financially decouple from the United States. End quote. Yet more evidence of economic decoupling and preparations for financial sanctions in the event of conflict. Okay, that is today's episode of China Update. Thank you so much, everybody, for watching. Have a good Friday, and I will see you all tomorrow.